Well, Harvard Law School has certainly fallen quite some ways. A recent article purportedly authored by one Ronald Sullivan, professor at Harvard Law School, sets forth to provide a legal analysis claiming that both the Kyle Rittenhouse and George Zimmerman cases ought to be deemed outside the boundaries of lawful self-defense. If you've got the stomach for it, I'll provide a link in the text version of today's content to that article by Professor Sullivan. I left a comment at that site where he'd left his column, but comments there require approval, and I rather expect that mine will not be approved. For the record, then, here's the comment I left for Professor Sullivan's attention. That's a Harvard Law School professor in 2021 for you, I guess. First, Professor Ronald Sullivan lifts this 5 elements of self-defense law legal analysis framework wholesale from my own work without any attribution whatever. Honest people call that intellectual theft. Professor Sullivan, shame on you, sir. I make no effort to limit the use of my intellectual work by others, but a simple note of acknowledgement keeps such use from being outright thievery. Is this the state of Harvard Law School academia in 2021? Harvard University has always been liberal in my lifetime, but when I attended, at least it didn't advocate the wholesale theft of the intellectual work of others. And no, merely reordering the sequence of the elements does not mitigate the intellectual theft. How childish. Second, Professor Sullivan is then unable to properly and competently apply the 5 elements of self-defense law analysis he so dishonestly stole from me. The element of innocence, the doctrine of being the non-aggressor, refers to not being the first person who uses or threatens to use physical force. It does not mean a person who merely follows another without threatening or using physical force. It does not mean a person who is lawfully armed without threatening or using physical force. Third, Professor Sullivan then compounds his mistaken understanding of simple, if stolen, legal concepts by plugging falsehoods into his analysis. Professor Sullivan wrote the following in his analysis, quote, "Despite being told by the 911 operator to remain in his car until officers arrived, Zimmerman instead confronted Martin." Close quote. That never happened. Ever. Not once. It's an outright and demonstrable falsehood. Anyone who bothers to listen to the few minutes of 911 recording that is the only conversation between the 911 operator and George Zimmerman will be unable to identify any moment in that recording when the dispatcher told Zimmerman to remain in his car. Anyone using such a demonstrable falsehood to make legal analysis of events of national interest is simply, at best, incompetent to the task. By the way, I'm happy to wager $1,000 on that issue, payable to a charity of the winner's choice. My choice will be to divide the sum between Kyle and George. With something other than simple professional honor and reputation at stake, however, I expect the good professor will prudently decline the wager. Fair warning, Professor. The same, though lesser, wager put television personality Sunny Hostin, herself a purported lawyer, $100 in my debt. My wagers were smaller a decade ago, and no, she's never made good on her debt. In total, this article is a contemptible piece of work on every level, and would be so from anyone claiming expertise on the concepts, the events, or the facts themselves. To have such garbage spewed by a purported professor from Harvard Law School simply compounds the stench. No offense. Best regards, Attorney Andrew F. Branca, Law of Self-Defense, LLC. Okay, folks, that was my response to the good professor. I guess that's all I have to say about this particular topic. Until next time, remember, if you carry a gun so you're hard to kill, that's why I carry a gun so I'm hard to kill, so my family is hard to kill, then you also owe it to yourself and your family to make sure you know the law so you're hard to convict. Until next time, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca for Law of Self-Defense. Stay safe.